Quote, "Who can blame our brethren of the South for their being inclined to succeed from a society under whose government their ends cannot be attained, and whose union is kept together by heavy iron ties of violence and arbitrary force? Who can blame our brethren of the South for succeeding from a society whose government cannot and will not protect property rights and privileges of a great portion of the Union?" End quote. Following the Civil War and the assassination of President Lincoln, many of the Jewish slave and cotton traders from the South, typified by the Lehman Brothers, moved to New York City and became prominent in Wall Street banking and stock brokerages. With the defeat of President Lincoln's Reconstruction program following his assassination, President Andrew Johnson pardoned the Scottish Rite insurrectionists. Now listen to this closely. President Andrew Johnson pardoned the Scottish Rite insurrectionists, including General Albert Pike, and accepted a rank of 32nd degree in the Southern Jurisdiction Freemasons. That was his reward. Suspected Lincoln assassination plotter Simon Wolfe was also absolved of any criminal culpability for his wartime activities. Only non-Freemasons and non-B'nai B'rith were prosecuted for the crimes they committed during the Civil War. The legacy of British Freemasonic treachery against the Union survived intact, including the B'nai B'rith. Although the slave trade nominally was banned in the United States as a result of Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, a new form of slavery had already been launched by the British East India Company and its Scottish Rite directors, including the same Lord Palmerston who had played so pivotal a role in the secessionist insurrection. Keep dialing, you blithering idiots. I hope your fingers start bleeding. I'm not going to answer the phone until the program is over. This is really funny, folks. This is going to be done. I'm tired of the lies. I'm tired of the deception and the manipulation of all of you people out there. I'm tired of you peddling off fantasy for truth. I'm tired of our children growing up never knowing what the reality of the world is and never having a chance for the future because of it. I'm tired of seeing blacks manipulated. I'm tired of seeing whites manipulated. I'm tired of seeing Jews manipulated. I'm tired of seeing American Indians manipulated. I'm sick to death of it, and there's not a damn thing that you can say or do that will stop this broadcast or the ones to follow. And you better get that through your stupid thick heads. ADL is up to their neck in it. They stink from it. The new form of slavery was drugs, opium. Henry Carey, one of the architects of Abraham Lincoln's Reconstruction program and a leading proponent of the American system of political economy, warned about Britain's opium war against China and India in his 1853 book, The Slave Trade, Domestic and Foreign. Get the book and read it. He described the trade in, quote, that pernicious drug opium, end quote, as, quote, one of perfect free trade, end quote. Defeated in the secessionist insurrectionist plot, Britain and its fifth column of agents in both the North and the South would eventually regroup around a strategy for running an opium war against the United States. As the reader will learn in later chapters, the B'nai B'rith and its Anti-Defamation League's secret lodge played a central role in the drugging of America. Let's fast forward to 1992, folks, in the nation's capital, where B'nai B'rith lawyer Simon Wolfe conspired on behalf of the southern slave trade. The streets in many parts of town are dominated now by drug traffickers whose deadly poison has inflicted both a subculture of addiction and violence, and a spread of AIDS among the predominantly black population. Community-based efforts led by the Nation of Islam have begun to roll back that new subculture of slavery and despair, restoring safety and dignity to some of the most desperately poor neighborhoods in the United States. And as soon as they began to be successful, they came under attack by the ADL. True to its history, the B'nai B'rith ADL intercedes to turn back the clock to the days of slavery. For drug addiction is a form of euphemistic slavery, And those who are addicted are subject to the whims of those who have enslaved them. They can even control the which way society goes, ladies and gentlemen. You see, if they want to create more crime in order to take rights away from the people, indeed, to make the people scream to have their rights taken away in order to take the fear away, get the crime and the drugs off our streets, they just elevate the price of the drugs so that the poor addict cannot afford to pay for them. So he has to go out and steal and rob and mug somebody and even kill to satisfy the terrible craving of his flesh. You never thought of it that way, did you? But it's true. Want to make it look like the police are succeeding? Want to make a politician look good? Lower the price of drugs way down to almost nothing and crime disappears overnight. One of these days you'll begin to understand how we've all been enslaved for most of our lives. All of us. Caucasian, Jew, black, Indian, Oriental, it doesn't make any difference. We've all been lied to, we've all been deceived, we've all been manipulated, and we've all been puppets on the end of somebody's strings. It is the purpose of the hour of the time to stop that. I'm not so foolish as to think we're going to be successful and stop it all. But we may be able to stop most of it. And we may be able to hang those that are responsible by their neck from a lamppost until they're dead once they've been legally apprehended and tried by a jury of their peers. Once the truth is known. But the Illuminati, ladies and gentlemen, not the Jews, is in control of the judicial system. The Illuminati, Freemasons, sit on the benches of every court in this nation. First, ladies and gentlemen, when this happened, the ADL set off a massive wave of anger and resentment in the African American community when in June 1992 it published The Anti-Semitism of Black Demagogues and Extremists. The widely circulated ADL report is a frontal attack on the Nation of Islam's and its leader, Minister Louis Farrakhan. It openly threatens retribution against any elected officials or political activists who associate with or publicly commend the Nation of Islam. I've commended them many times on the Hour of the Time and will continue to do that. I condemn them for their racism, but I applaud them and admire them for what they have done for the black community. No one else has done so much to bring them up out of poverty and give them a sense of self-worth and bring their families together and where they stay together. No one else has taken the drugs off the streets like the Nation of Islam. In July 1992, a major uproar developed in Washington, D.C. when the ADL, ladies and gentlemen, the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, was caught red-handed in an ugly attempt to shut down any government contact with what has been the only effective effort to clean up drug and crime-infested areas in the nation's capital. The Nation of Islam's now famous dope busters. If you've investigated what happened in Waco, Texas, ladies and gentlemen, you always run up against the ADL and B'nai B'rith. They instigated it. They brought it into being. They promoted it. They pressed it. And they are the ones who released the lies to the press around the country that kept the American people in the dark. when Washington, D.C. Mayor Sharon Pratt Kelly issued an official proclamation honoring Nation of Islam leader Dr. Abdul Alim Muhammad for his leadership in the Dope Busters campaign and for his groundbreaking work in treating AIDS patients with Imuvirin, an African-developed anti-AIDS drug, the ADL went absolutely insane. They had ignored these people until they began to take the drugs off the streets. Make sure you understand that. Kelly was repeatedly hit with ADL-organized delegations demanding that the proclamation be rescinded, lest she too be identified as an anti-Semite. And this is how they blackmail leaders and police chiefs and mayors and military officers into doing their bidding for fear of being labeled anti-Semitic. You've all learned you can call me whatever you want. Doesn't make any difference. I'll tell the truth no matter what. Always. Always. When she refused, the ADL engaged in a national barrage of media attacks against the Nation of Islam. The attacks culminated in an article run in the Washington Times, co-authored by ADL National Director Abe Foxman and fact-finding director Myra Lansky-Boland. Ultimately, Kelly succumbed to ADL demands and issued an open letter to the community in which she continued to praise Dr. Muhammad's work against drugs, violence, and AIDS, but condemned alleged anti-Semitic statements attributed to him by the ADL.